everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this 3-day reading vlog to wrap up October. So we're this close to the end of the month, and I still have some TBR books that I need to read if I don't want to take any punishments for Phase 10, which I really don't, because I've got that video uploaded and ready to go out tomorrow. So it would be a shame if I had to take punishments because, well, they won't be in the video. But speaking of that, the last 2 books I have to read for my Phase 10 TBR are CC Rios and The Desert of Souls. I'm on page 88. This is going to be my focus tonight. I'm hoping I can finish this. And then the other one is The Sun Bearer Trials by Aiden Thomas, and I'm on page 114. Once I get through this, I may switch to this. I'm not sure. I'm actually thinking about doing some sprints and seeing if that can help me get through some of my reading. They do help me focus, and when I do sprints on my channel, I tend to do 30 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of talking, because I don't have a huge following, and I stream in the middle of the night. So most people aren't awake when I'm live sprinting. If I manage to get through these 2, I need to read Spies in St. Petersburg. I'm like 80 pages into that, and I would like to get through that one because it's the last series to continue. And I've been very good about reading the books for the series I need to continue. I'm also in the middle of War of the Cards, which is the 3rd and final book in the Queen of Hearts trilogy. I need to go back to the Tall Tales Secret Book Club because I pulled Try Again Author for Phase 10, so I'm going to read the 2nd book in that series, even though I DNF'd the first one, so now I have to un-DNF the first one and finish it. I'm most of the way through The Shadow of What Was Lost, so I really need to finish this one because I put the 2nd book on my TBR for my Phase 10 in November, so kind of need to get to that one. I still need to finish The Harbinger, which is a rollover from September that I haven't touched, and then I have Storm of Dogs, which is the 6th book in the first arc of 6 of the Survivor series, and then the first 2 books in the 2nd arc of 6 in the Seeker series that I would like to get to because I'm trying to finish the main arcs of those before the end of the year because they were 2 series I wanted to continue, and I think I can catch up on 3 of them. Of the 5. I would need to read The Harbinger if I wanted to catch up on number 4, and I'm struggling with that one, and I think there's a lot of books in that series, and I'm going to have to read them ebooks because I can't get the physical books or the audiobooks, and I struggle with ebooks, so I don't think I'm going to catch up on that series. And then I think I just reread book 6 of Antimony, and there's like 25. There's no way I'm finishing that before the end of the year. So I should be able to finish these, if I make a focus, like I've got it broken down, and then hopefully catch up on the Positively Organic Mystery series because I have books 5, 6, and 7, I think, and 5's on my TBR this month, and I purposely put 6 and 7 on my TBR for next month because book 6 is Christmas themed. I believe that was my reasoning. So I have a lot that I need to get to, and hopefully these sprints will help. I'm feeling pretty confident, at the very least, that I'm going to be able to get through these 2, which is the main focus that would get me my TBR, and then I can move into November, where I have bit off probably way more than I can chew, considering I'm doing Historathon 3.0, which means lots of historical fictions, so I feel like those are going to take me a bit longer. And then I'm doing Once Upon a Readathon, and I have books set out for that, and you kind of need to read them in order, so I will be reading those, and you have to read the Historathon ones in order too, I believe, or at least that's how my brain has interpreted it, so I will be reading them in order. And I put a book, I believe, on both of my TBRs because I needed a book with a historic setting for Once Upon a Readathon, and since I was already reading a bunch of historical fictions, I figured why not. So I have like this giant stack of books that I have to read before I can get to that one. Maybe not my smartest move, but it is what it is. So I really need to go read. Like I said, I'll probably toss on some sprints to help me. And yeah, hopefully I will check back in tomorrow to let you know how I did. So it is now Sunday, and I thought I would check in. These sprints definitely helped last night as I finished C.C. Rios in the Desert of Souls. I'm giving this book 4.5 stars. I absolutely love this book. I love the relationship between C.C. and her sister. We have a helper. Because of course we do. She was on my sprints last night. You want to say hi, Allie? Come here. Say hi. Back to C.C. Rios. I also really enjoy seeing her relationship with her mom. I like seeing Cece figure things out and kind of come into her own and believe that she really can truly save her sister, and that conviction that she's going to get her sister back from El Sombron. And she's terrified, but she loves her sister too much to just let her go without a fight. I really, really enjoyed this book, and I'm assuming it's a series, so if it is, I will absolutely be continuing it. Then I did one more sprint after I finished that, and I read another like 40 pages in Spies in St. Petersburg. I'm very, very curious as to what's going on there. There was kind of a bit of a plot twist that I wasn't expecting, so we will see how that goes. My focus for tonight is going to be the Sunbearer Trials. I'm hoping I can get through this before bed. I may sprint again because that worked really, really well for me last night, and it actually helped my mental health. I do not leave the house. I don't know if I've mentioned this. I'm very, very selective about when I leave the house and where I will go. Basically, I will not go in any building where masks aren't required, and that is getting to be less and less these days. It means I don't get to interact with people very often. Like, I don't see anybody. I don't go to the store. I don't really have in real life friends. I have one, my best friend, but she lives in another state, so I don't really get to see her. We talk a lot on the phone and catch up that way, but she's been super busy with work, so I haven't been getting much interaction there. And then the other friend that I have, she's got 2 kids. She's the mom of 2 of my little ones. And we didn't hang out tons prior to COVID, but like we would hang out every once in a while. And now since COVID, I just don't see her. Like, she's very busy with the kids, and I won't go inside, obviously. So it just makes things really, really hard. And on top of that, I am very much like I don't miss leaving the house. I don't miss having to pretend to be something I'm not, which was a lot of what I was feeling. During the pandemic, I actually was happier than I had been in years because I stopped having to pretend to be somebody I wasn't. I got to be non-binary and just be me for a while. I got to accept that I have a massive anxiety disorder, and that's okay. Nobody was forcing me to constantly challenge it. I got to accept that I was ace. I got to come to the realization, most likely, that I'm autistic, and I only realized that recently, and I'm still figuring it out, but the more I look into it, the more sure I am that I am autistic, and it makes so many things make sense. And I'm so tired of being a square peg trying to shove myself in a round hole. I just want to be a square peg. I want to be a square peg searching for square holes. And I want to be around people who, regardless of the shape of their peg, do not care what shape peg I am and will not try to force me into a hole I don't fit into. So it's made it very, very hard because I don't miss being around people. It is very exhausting to leave the house. It's hard because I struggle seeing nobody wearing masks. It will make me feel very dirty and germified and anxious, even if I never leave the car and don't interact with anybody. So I usually don't leave. So I did sprints last night, and it made me feel so much better because I had a few people show up and I got to chat and I got a little bit of social interaction, which is something I was missing. So I may sprint again tonight because it made me feel really good. And I got to get through a giant chunk of my TBR because I finished an entire book. So yeah, I think I may go set up some sprints and read, and hopefully that wasn't too much information, but I know that when I watch other booktubers, it helps me to know that there are other people out there who are not necessarily neurotypical, who are not straight, cisgendered, etc. And it helps me feel less alone. So I decided I would share. So maybe one of you watching this video will feel slightly less alone like those videos have made me. So yeah, I'm going to go read and cuddle this one because she's driving me nuts. And it is very hard to film when she's doing this because she wants all the attention. So I'm going to go read and pet this one, and I will check back in with you tomorrow to wrap this vlog up. Officially November, which means it is time to wrap this vlog up. I managed to squeeze in a lot of reading in the last 3 days. I'm very proud of that. First up, I finished The Sunbearer Trials, which was the last book on my TBR. I'm giving this 4.5 stars. We're following Teo, who is a Jade semidios, and there is these trials, the Sunbearer Trials, where 10 competitors are chosen from the semidioses, one of whom will become the new Sunbearer, and the other one who will sacrifice their life to Sol to refill the Sunstones to protect the people of the world for another 10 years. And in an unusual fashion, 2 Jade semidioses are chosen. Teo is one of them, and he just wants to survive the trials. He doesn't really care if he becomes a Sunbearer. He just wants to get through these trials and not be the sacrifice. I really, really enjoyed this book. I love Teo as our main character and seeing how he's struggling with the fact that Jades are not prepared to compete in these trials because they're so very rarely chosen that all the effort goes into focusing on the golds and the terror that comes with that. I enjoy the relationships that he develops with his fellow competitors and the interactions that they have. I love getting to see the trials themselves and how each of the different competitors handles that and the glimpses we get at that. I love the way this book ended, and it left me wanting so much more. I cannot wait for book 2 in this series, and don't be surprised if book 2 ends up on a future 5-star prediction list, because I really did love this book that much. It was just missing that one little thing that shoved it over the edge. Then I read the Tall Tales Secret Book Club. So I had started this during, I want to say, Wacky Witches, and I didn't finish it, and I wasn't sure I was going to finish it, and then made the decision that I was going to DNF it because I wasn't enjoying it. And then I pulled Try Again Author out of my lovely FaceTime board. That prompt will be going away because it just fills me with dread every time I pull it. And, like, it's the only prompt that does that. Like, give me big book, give me lowest rated, give me just any of the other prompts that I'm never necessarily like, woohoo, let's fulfill that. But I'm not like, oh, God, why this one? Ugh. So I ended up giving the Tall Tales Secret Book Club 1.5 stars. You don't normally see me give those ratings because usually if I know I'm disliking a book that much, I DNF it. So I can't even remember our main character's name, and it was an ebook, so I can't look it up because I'm filming on my phone. But we're following this girl who takes a job as, like, a servant at this manor for this mean old lady. And a murder ends up happening, and our main character ends up getting sucked into the drama of trying to figure out who done it, which is a pretty usual setup for a cozy murder mystery. Now, with this one, she wasn't actively trying to solve it. Not really. Things just kept happening, and, like, she was thrown into the deep end with the people in this manor, We never really got to properly know any of these people. By the end of the book, I was still having trouble telling who was who and why they were there and what their motives were, and I was confusing people constantly because we hadn't been properly introduced to any of these people and had it laid out. Like, I felt like the world building needed to be better because even though it's not a fantasy, I didn't feel like I understood the world that our main character was in. I didn't know who she was interacting with and how the building was laid out or anything like that. Everything just felt rushed and underdeveloped. The reason it's getting 1.5 stars is because there was a cat. That's it. The 0.5 stars is for the cat. Because I love me a cozy mystery with a cat. So, I'm reading book 2 in November for my Phase 10 TBR. So I had to finish book 1. So that's why this is here. 1.5 stars. I was not a fan. Hopefully book 2 will go better. Maybe I will know more of the players this time and it won't be quite so confusing, but there was just a lot of things that do not make sense. I have no idea why our main character made the choices that she did. I have no idea why some of the supporting characters made the choices that they did. There was... It just... this book frustrated me. It really, really frustrated me, and I can't begin to explain without spoilers. And I don't want to spoil it for you in case you want to check it out, because maybe you'll like it more than I did. Or maybe you just want to hate read it, but go into it blind so that you can see all of the things that I didn't like. But this book just was not for me. And fingers crossed book 2 is better since I have to read it. Then I finished The Shadow of What Was Lost, finally. And I'm giving this book 4 stars. It was a solid 3.5 star until like the last 100 pages. And as things started to come together, I went, oh, okay. Oh, okay. And by the time I got done with this book, I wanted to pick up the second one. So I'm really glad the second one is on my TBR for November. So in this book, we're following multiple points of view, but I think our main character is Davian. Yeah, Davian. And he lives in this world where there are gifted, and the gifted have magic, but they've kind of been shackled and enslaved because they used to be kind of the servants to the augurs, but it was like a proper balance, like checks and balances kind of relationship, not like a slave thing. And when the augurs fell, the regular folk basically enslaved the gifted so that they couldn't use their magic to harm anybody. And Davian ends up finding out that he's an augur, and there's war brewing, and there's a lot of politics, and we're learning the magic. And this can be a very, very, very confusing book because there's so much going on, and there's so many different points of view, and you're trying to figure it all out. But I will say by the end of the book, I felt like I had a better grasp as to what was going on, though I still don't know everything, and I want to know the answers. And I've heard that by the end of the trilogy, you have all the answers. So I'm definitely planning on continuing on with the series. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I did. And I will say that the audiobook is fantastic because I love the voice actor. But I will tell you that the audiobook is not the same version as this book. I think I saw in the Discord, because this was the backlist book club pick. I'll link the Twitter below. But in the Discord where we were talking about this book, a lot of people noticed that the audiobook and the physical book don't necessarily line up with what's being said. And the guesswork to that is that it was indie published and then it got picked up. So they don't know whether the audiobooks are based on the indie published and then these are the regular published books, or whether the copy we happen to have that differs is like the indie version and then the audiobook is the final version. So keep that in mind, that if you pick up the audiobook and you want to read along, there will be points where it might be different. I don't know why. I don't know how it happened. I'm warning you that it happened to a bunch of us, so it's not just a random fluke on my part. But I really, really enjoyed this book more than I thought I was going to when I set it down. And keep in mind, I set it down because I just wasn't in the mood for an adult fantasy. It had nothing to do with the book. But I did end up really, really enjoying it. So I'm looking forward to reading book 2 in November. And then the last update I have for you is I finished Spies in St. Petersburg. So this is the second book in the Taylor and Rose series, which is a spin-off of the Sinclair's mystery series. And in this book, let's see, how can I put this so there's not spoilers? We have one of our main characters is undercover in St. Petersburg and is trying to recover something that was mentioned in book 1. And our other character is being sent undercover in Hamburg, Germany, but finds out that our first character who's in St. Petersburg has not been checking in. And these guys are friends. So our second undercover character decides instead of going to Hamburg, they're going to go to St. Petersburg and see if they can find their friend. Hopefully this is enough of a gist as to what the book is about without giving away too much, because it's hard because it's also a spin-off series, and yeah. I'm giving this book 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed getting to see the adventure our characters are going on. I like that there was a point when we were hearing from the character who is in St. Petersburg, but we didn't know whether the events that the character was talking about were current or not. We do find out, but we didn't know at the time, or at least I didn't. Maybe I missed a date somewhere that gave away when things were happening, but I don't know. I really liked the kind of dual narratives and how they each felt separate from one another, and then how things kind of came together in the end. And where this book left off makes me want to pick up book 3, and I love when series can do that. Even when I'm enjoying a series, the books that I'm reading don't always leave off in a spot that makes me go, I immediately want to pick up the next book. They might go, yeah, I'll get to that at some point, but I love the ones that leave me wanting more immediately and do a great job at setting up where the next book is going to go. And I think this one does a really good job at that, because you can kind of see what is going to happen without needing to know the storyline, but like the bigger arc of the series itself, and wondering how that is going to play a part in what these characters get up to in the next book. So I definitely hope to continue that series sooner rather than later, but we'll see. So yeah, that's it. I think in the last couple of days, I managed to make a lot of progress. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned, I also read a little bit more of The Harbinger. I wanted to read more of it, but I've been reading After Dark and it is scary, so I won't read it after dark. But I will get back to it. I'm enjoying it. It's just spooky. So yeah, I mean, I had a bunch of books I was in the middle of, and I ended up at the end of the month with only 2. I think at one point I was in the middle of 6 or 7. So I'll take it. I think this was a pretty successful wrap up to October, and I'm now ready to dive into November and see what I can do with Historathon and Once Upon a Readathon, which will be tricky because you have to read books in a certain order, and I do have a crossover book there, which means I have books from both TBRs that I have to read before I can get to that one. So that should be interesting. And then I have the Cat Lady Readathon the first weekend of November, which I want to read Leopard Star's Honor for. But I have, again, certain books that I have to read in certain orders to, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And then I will be wrapping up November with I believe the last full week in November. I think it's the 21st through the 27th is the last round this year of the Final Book Support Group, so expect nothing but sequels that week. So we'll see. It's going to be a busy month. We'll hopefully be able to get through everything I want to get through. It's a lot of historical fiction, more than I've read in a long time, but I'm excited about it. So yeah, that's it for this 3-day end of October vlog. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me Halloween-themed emojis since yesterday was Halloween. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!